righty. Ta-da! Hello there. How is everybody doing today? This evening, end of the week, end of the weekend, start of the new week. Don't even want to think about that. Well, there are a few people joining here. Thank you for joining. I'm going to do a little bit of a resurrection discussion from last night's Steely Dan. Got my UHQR today, so had a few revelations. Some surprising, some not so surprising, but it is what it is. I also dropped my video with Speaker's Corner owner Kai Seaman from Germany today. Had some nice comments back on that. I appreciate that very much. It was really a great conversation on and off the air with him, and definitely he and I will be chatting again. Kind of a kindred spirit in our backgrounds in terms of vinyl and what he's gone through from a businessman's perspective, which is really interesting from a foreign perspective, and also being a small startup label kind of coming into fruition, basically to support the hello, Mr. Stark. I don't. I always say Mr. Texas. Okay, thanks. When I say other people's names, sometimes the names of people are their first name. I'm not sure, honestly, sometimes what gender they are. So, just genuinely, the names are unique sometimes. So if I make such a mistake, it is totally stupidity on my part, I guess. So thanks for joining. So yeah, so he joined into the community of making records because of supporting his business that they had, Speaker's Corner business. And so they were kind of making records for demonstration and those kind of things, because a lot of that was becoming very cheap to get at the time in the early 90s, because everybody was ditching their vinyl production capabilities. So to the winner go the spoils here. Do I have an original CB? Yes, I do. I have several, Ben. I have an original ABC, several iterations of ABC. I have the Probe, which is the European release of it. I have a Canadian yellow vinyl of it. The only one I don't have that I really want to get is, ironically, we're talking Speaker's Corner here because I was interviewing the owner, is the Speaker's Corner, because I didn't really know they had one until a few years ago. So I do know a few people. I've read on the Analogue Productions fan club on Facebook that they have they've now gotten the UHQR and they have the Speaker's Corner and original. So there's going to be some comparisons coming out. I think even one of the commenters, I think in my 3-hour show from last night, funny, somebody commented, I didn't realize it was a live feed. They're like, it took you 2.5 hours to talk about this record. What the heck are you doing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that wasn't. So I do have it, and I am going to talk about the differences a bit. So I'm just waiting for a few more people to get online. So I will be talking about that again. So I've seen some of back to the Geffen release, the $30 digital cut from digital high-res file that I talked about last night, and the issues I had with it. One thing I wanted to be clear about, if I wasn't clear yesterday, was the thing starts with "Do It Again," and that's obviously a very powerful intro instrumentally and all. And my biggest fatigue, or my biggest thing with that cut, really was with that song mostly. It's probably the most dynamic one on there and really has the most going on, I guess, so to speak. And So some of the other songs weren't nearly as impactful in terms of, oh, it's just a bit much. Um, but I can say that, yeah, you're waiting. Hey, thanks. I appreciate you joining tonight. So, uh, and again, one thing I always want to stress, and I'll say it now, and you're going to see exactly why this is even more important to point out when I give you some insight about my impressions of that Geffen release, the original $30 one came through Universal, is everybody is different. Everybody hears different. Everybody listens different. I talked to a friend today, someone who I really trust their auditory capability and in their system and everything. So I knew when I started to hear some of this from them, I thought, okay, there's some credibility there, and there is maybe something else going on a little bit in my own personal perspective. So I think the one thing we always have to remember is listening is a human experience, and it's a unique experience. So there is no, it's not like a car when you say, I was able to go 95 miles an hour in this car and it, ran fairly smoothly. Probably pretty much all of them are going to be that way. Your experience is going to be the same because that's a fairly objective type thing. Listening is very subjective. And so, and the reason I say that is because the one thing I didn't take into account, honestly, is that I had been sick all week. I had upper respiratory congestion for starting Monday and all the way through the whole week, and didn't even get to the doctor till Friday, and it had already started to clear up. But I looked at some notes that I had taken from when I was at the doctor Friday, and there still is drainage going on in my head, and that affects your hearing. And so some of the sensitivity that I think that I experienced to how profound that thing hit me was, I think, partially based on my auditory sensitivities that I was having. um, it is still strong, and it's still powerful. I don't think it changes that. I think that's true. And the other person that I was talking to that really, I trust their ears and their system, said, yeah, it was there, but it wasn't, just didn't seem quite as profound as you. And that's when really it started to click to me. So I started to play it today, and it didn't sound as harsh or impactful. It was strong, but it didn't give me that visceral reaction. So I think personally, thanks for that sentiment. I appreciate it. But and I think that it colored my opinion. So I'm I can say that all day long. What is it a mistake? Well, it was a mistake not to think about the fact that that could affect me, and I should have probably had my brain in my thinking about that top of shelf, but I didn't. And so that was a mistake. Did I not hear it? No, I heard it. I mean, it was my reaction was what my reaction is. I don't take it away. I'm just saying I think I know the root cause maybe of why it felt that way. And it didn't feel that much today. And I listened to it before the UHQR came in. So it wasn't like I was doing an A/B to the UHQR then and saying, "Oh yeah, it's not as bad as I thought." It's not. First thing this morning I listened to it, and it was, like I said, it wasn't as visceral today. And then when I talked to the gentleman that I know really well, and he gave me his feedback. So I still think there are elements of the Geffen they're both Geffen, so I got to be careful, of the 33 RPM are still definitely sound somewhat different now to the UHQR. And that is that I think it is a tad bit louder, like a half a dB to a dB louder than, let's say, an OG. I did check that, and so my head, it felt like 2 or 3 dB yesterday, but I checked it out today, and it's like a half to 1 dB of a boost from the OGs. and the UHQR is more like the OGs in terms of that loudness level. So so what happens here in these two comparisons is, think of the 33 RPM Geffen having just a little bit brighter sound, definitely a more distinctive separation and coloration of the instrumentation and the voices. You hear new things. Okay, so that it definitely gives you that impression. So, for people to say, yeah, that really sounds good. That really sounds, I'm hearing things I didn't hear before. That's true, 100% true. And I know I even said that yesterday, but that is distinctly true. Now, when I take the UHQR and put it on, again, it's a 45 RPM, 2 LP, 4 sides. So you got tracks 1 and 2 on A, tracks 3 through 5 on B, tracks 6 and 7 on C, and tracks 8, 9, and 10 on D. So that's kind of the breakout. So the first side is, well, Do It Again and Dirty Work. What a combo, right? So they're the only ones on there. So the UHQR sound is more reserved in the sense, but it's more nuanced. You definitely can pick things out of it now that even in the 33 RPM aren't as easy to separate out. So there definitely is a difference. There is no doubt. And so and that's a good thing. I mean, from a critical listening experience, the UHQR gives you that experience, and there's no doubt about it. It's very nuanced in certain, every song I could say things that I said, oh, I've never really kind of heard that distinctly, or that bass never plucked quite that cleanly, or that drum hit I never really picked up on before. So it definitely has the nuance. The 33 Geffen is a little more crowded in the sense that things are going on, and it doesn't quite have that quite distinctiveness to it, but it's kind of like, and I this is an interesting thing yesterday I picked up on, of listening to something when you're in the room versus when you leave the room. So when you're in the room and you're listening to the UHQR, it has that really nice experience, and you really hear the segregation and you hear all this. And then, if you were to leave the room, it still sounds good, but you can't appreciate it. Whereas the 33 Geffen, you could leave the room and it really sounds pounding, and it's really, it's bright enough to where you don't have to be in front of the tweeter to pick it up. It's, it's a little more that kind of a feeling. So they each have, I guess, their strengths and weaknesses. But for me, like I said, the surface noise, I still experience. I think I'm going to do a reset up on my turntables when I get back, because I just want to be sure that there's no vertical tracking angle issues or anything causing some of that. But I played it on my other player and I had a similar experience, and I don't have it really on the UHQR. So you could have a bad pressing. There's no problem with that. And I have a couple of major pops and ticks in the Geffen 33 that, are bad. So there's no doubt about that. But still coughing. So you see, I still have it. So let me look here. Yeah, you're not well. The music doesn't sound better. You're right. Yeah, I am feeling better. I just, not 100%. That's for sure. Sometimes if you're even not in the right mood, critical listening should be put on the back burner. That's a great point. That is a great point. And I don't know. I think I had some muscle memory too about how I expected it to sound, having heard it previously with the new mix, the new master. Sorry, not new mix, new master. So I may have had a little bit of that going on in my head. My friend and I talked about that this morning as well. So sounds like the tape. Yeah, yeah. I guess to me the UHQR is just it just really draws out the instrumentation and there's kind of there's a lot going on in a Steely Dan song sometimes. Even, I mean, for me, Do It Again has the most. I mean, it really has a lot going on. I mean, I'd love to hear that thing in separate tracks the way it was recorded, because there's just so much going on. And there's percussion in there now with the UHQR. I hear instruments that I never heard before. So, which is kind of like a new listen almost, it's kind of like, wow, you know, I, yeah. So this is great. Thanks, Dylan, for bringing this up. So I read the Dead Wax. First of all, Bernie actually signed the Dead Wax. He didn't just put BG, which was a nice touch. So side A, which has Do It Again and Dirty Work, is etched RE6, which means it was the 7th lacquer, because the first lacquer doesn't have an RE because it's not a revision. So RE6 was the first side. All the other sides, B, C, and D, are RE3s, which would be the 4th lacquer. So I know Chad was going after a certain effect with Dirty Work with the sax. He wasn't quite satisfied with it in several iterations. So it sounds like once they got to the 4th lacquer, he was kind of satisfied with it. But for Dirty Work, that one was not coming out the way he wanted. The sax piece was not giving him what he expected. So they did a few more of those, and then he settled on that. So that just I say inside baseball, you can read the Dead Wax as well as I, but I'm putting two and two together from conversations I had with Chad, and he didn't quite get into the numbers and the whatever, but now the Dead Wax tells the rest of the story, so to speak. Which is my pick for the best value. Wow. I have to say that and again, I mean, my pressing from the 33 has a couple of really problematic pops and clicks in Do It Again, almost to where you think it's going to skip. I mean, I may take it back and see if I can get a different one, to be honest with you. I'm almost at that point. Because I just think it's just really bad. So that tarnishes me a bit. But if a clean one, I mean, dollar for dollar, that's a hell of a well mastered record for $30. It's a hell of a well mastered record for $30. If you really, and I've said this before, if you really like an album enough to pay a premium for it, then it's worth it to you. I mean, I wouldn't do that for most albums that I have. No way. There aren't a few. I mean, I wouldn't do it for a lot of them. That's, like I said, that album's in my top 5, so it was an easy decision for me. I can see why people, and I said this yesterday even, I can see why people like the 33 Geffen, because it sounds dynamic. I mean, it's even a little bit brighter. I mean, which, if you like a brighter sound, then you're really going to love it. If you really like a little bit brighter, like some cartridges are a little brighter. People say Audio Technicals are a little brighter maybe than Audiophons or whatever. And yeah, they are, I think. So if you like that, then it's really, sweet, is it? Let's see what we got here. I noticed the Apple Music version is now available. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, the gentleman that I talked to listened to the online high res as well. I don't know. I can't remember which service he said it was on, but he said, and it sounded exactly like the Geffen 33. He said, it sounded exactly the same. So, which I would expect it to sound pretty much. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, so it is. I'm not. Let me put it this way: I'm not as negative toward the $30 digital as I was 24 hours ago, because I it does to today, and again, I think my condition and my ears draining and that probably had an effect on me more than like I said, I recognized at all. Didn't even think about it. So I heard what I heard. I felt what I felt. I don't take any of it back in that regard, but I definitely put an asterisk and say I think I know why it was quite that visceral, and it's not as visceral as what I experienced 24 hours ago. So, aloha, buddies. Initial thoughts on playback. Yeah, hate chance. By the way, Concert Buddy has a great contest out there. Go to his channel, sub him up, look for that little logo, because there's other people out there that have similar names. He has a great contest to win some Vinyl Me Please subscriptions for 3 months. So give him a shout. Well, it's a very nuanced mastering and very nuanced cut. So you get the benefit of the 45 RPM, being a little faster, a little more detail information. Um, you get the noise floor reduction with Clarity Vinyl, very, very, very quiet. Um, it's I've listened to it probably 3 times now, and I'd say, it's kind of like sometimes you go to a movie and you go, I saw things the second time I never really remember or saw quite the first time. It's that way. I mean, you will start to hear, and again, this is an album I know all too well. I know it too well because I really have a huge muscle memory about these songs and how they sound. So for me, something jumping out, it's based on a comparison of a norm. It's almost like my brain has to do a detour and goes, what, that the road changed, wait, what, that I heard that, I didn't hear that before. And it happened each time I listened to it, on just about every song, with different new experiences, which is really kind of cool when you think about it. I mean, eventually you'll get settled in and you'll get used to the new mastering, but it's kind of like rediscovering the album a little bit again. And to me, that's the best experience to have when something comes out again. Take a drink. So you can tell there was TLC done in this at all levels. I mean, I'll pull it out here. The jacket, is just really, really rugged jacket, and shiny surface. Oh my God, just picturesque. So, yeah, really well done. My thing that got me is, I mean, I'm like number 2239, and I'm like, I ordered that thing, in the first online. I mean, in the first minutes. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was FIFO, whatever. I don't know what FIFO means to them. I mean, if I'm looking at order number sequence and they're in sequence, and I pull all the orders for Can't Buy a Thrill, and I'm whatever the lowest order number is, and I'm gonna, it would seem like they would get shipped or invoiced or whatever what system's trigger is, in that sequence. But I don't know. I saw people that had stickers of 600 or whatever. Now mine didn't have a sticker on it at all. So, here's the beauty. What I do is I just tear open one little edge from the back here with a knife and fold this forward, and then pull out, the actual innards, which I'll show you in a minute. So this doesn't have any white sticker with a number on it anywhere. Okay, the only is the barcode, but that's generic. It wasn't even in Discogs yet. So There's nothing on the bottom. You know, you got the side here, of course. And then you get your, your tech specs in here. Here's your little, take that out, get it out of the way. The actual records. Now, they didn't put a bubble wrap between the two this time, like they did with Aqualon. I think it's because the jacket here is so thick. So there's your two records, your actual bread and butter, what you're going to listen to there. So you have your certificate, which you get, and it says 20,000. It was pressed October of 2022. So that's Chad's little certification. You get the little official looking forms there. They're actually from the patents for Clarity Vinyl and UHQR, making everything nice and legal. You got a nice, promo of what they're selling. Okay. Then this is an interesting piece. This is, and I really haven't really looked very deeply. Liner notes by Donald Fagen, which I haven't read yet, and I will, but I just haven't had the time to read it. It gives you some info on the back about who was on the recording. Okay. Mastered by Bernie Grunman, plated by Stan Bishop and at QRP and pressed at QRP. UHQR series produced by Chad Casson. Liner notes by Donald Fagen with the help of Fred Kaplan. So you remember the interview that was done with Chad and Donald and another gentleman. That was Fred Kaplan. So and so here we have the actual master tape picture as promised by Chad to show the authenticity, originality of the fact they used the master tape. And then, of course, I guess this is Donald's writings here, which I haven't read. So that's a nice, unique little thing there. And then last, but certainly not least, and I almost wish I was wearing gloves right now, is this beautiful satin jacket. And you can see how shiny it is. I'm purposely trying to get glare on this to show you. And then I'm not going to open the gatefold a lot. In the back. And then there, finally, the number comes in. 2239. So it's a number. It's a number on this, and that's all it is. But at the same time, I was surprised it was quite that high, but that's fine. I'm not into the thinking that means that much, but that's what it is. So let me catch up here, guys. Important question. What is it? I was expected. You mean the number? If that's the question about the number, I don't know. I thought it would have been in the hundreds somewhere, to be honest. But they may. I don't know the algorithms. It's fine. I'm just glad I got it. Where's the 33 pressed? Precision in Canada. They're doing globally, and that is GZ Media. Essentially, the Czech Republic's GZ Media. That is their plant, and they have pressed some stinkers at GZ Media, and they've pressed some stinkers up at Precision. So I'm not a fan. Play it now. Yeah, get shut down on YouTube. Just do it. Yeah, so I expect it to be in the hundreds. Did I expect more? I'm catching up on this. Sorry if you clarify that. I expected more in terms of what the sound was. I think I got what I expected. You know, I say I got what I expected in this regard. I got what I expected in terms of that there was going to be a difference. I think the amount of difference and the amount of extra nuance has been surprising to me. So in some ways, I guess I did get more than I expected because, like I said, I didn't expect to kind of hear new things after the third time I played it. So that's interesting. Now I'm really eagerly waiting the release of Asia. Yeah, I mean, Gaucho's the one I'm waiting for Asia, but Gaucho's the one I really can't. I'm really, you know, concert buddies got to keep it quiet. They got this thing called headphones. You know, you can actually, and I haven't listened to this on headphones yet, and I like listening on headphones. So I need to do that when I get back. I don't really have time to do it now. So I think I got my order within 3 minutes. The announcement email. Okay. Yeah. Have you got your disc yet? You don't. When you're getting yours, I'll be curious what number you get. Just it's just curiosity. That's it. But you could say one thing. Me getting 2239, it tells you one thing. I have no pull at Acoustic Sounds and Analog Productions. So I even told Chad, you know, what my number was, and I was like, okay, glad you got it. Couldn't believe I got it on a Sunday. He couldn't believe, and I couldn't either. So yeah, it's a 2x45 RPM. Sorry, I did not get the university sticker. I didn't, you know, I didn't know that Mazzy went to STFU, but anyway, I try not to over listen to an album. It becomes fatiguing. Yeah, you're right. It can do that, but this is one that I don't know. I analyze, I guess, or I idolize. I idolize and analyze. So I guess there are some albums I'll do that with a bit. Yeah, it is always nice to see the pics of the tapes. Yeah. I have listened to it. Sorry if you're just catching up. It's very clean, very nuanced. Definitely brings a new, a fresh listen perspective. You know, a peeling back of the kimono a bit on some sounds and some voice elements even that come up where, like he says, "Hey," in one of the songs. I think it's "Dirty Work." And it really kind of, you know, I think it was there in the original, but you just it never triggered, and now it triggers. So that's great. Congrats. I just got ripped off for $150. Well, okay. I don't see it that way. I see why some people say they're too expensive, and they're expensive. Okay. There's a lot of things that are expensive. I mean, you choose to spend your money on what you cherish or what you find. You know, I don't go out and, you know, spend $150 to play 18 holes of golf or to drink or to pay for cigarettes or do, you know, whatever. We all have our vices and our habits and our things we want to do. And, you know, I'm going to Orlando tomorrow, you know, and it's like, normally I would have gone 2 or 3 days early, hit the parks, done all that, spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, I'm kind of past that now. And so, you know, and I could listen to this over and over again. If I go to Disney, it's I got pictures. That's about it, So all I'm saying is, everybody chooses to spend their money, and that's great about society and capitalism and all these things. You can buy what you want and not buy what you don't, and that's cool. I love it. Jazz has number one. Yeah, I'm sure. But I it's a hobby, and it's just something that I wouldn't spend that much money on most records, of course. There's no doubt about that. 5 copies shipped were the last one. First copy. Yeah, it's completely okay. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they put, the thing happens in packing where they actually obviously put the UHQR box in the acoustic sounds box, so it's when it gets thrown in the one that has my label, it's like, yeah, who knows? Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Yeah, I mean, you really have to have you would have to have a very serial controlled FIFO, almost like when the order was made, it issued the serial number that it was going to use for it at that time. You know, that would really be the only way to sequentially control that, I think. Any idea what the timing might be on that announcement? No, but I know one thing. The odds are it'll be on a Friday, and it'll be a Friday afternoon between 3 and 5 Central Time. Those things that I think I can pretty well bet will be the time window. Um, so just FYI. But will it be this Friday? Will it be Black? Maybe Black Friday. I mean, think about it. Hey, maybe Black Friday. I don't know. Enjoy the hobby. Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, Disney. Yeah, Michael, it was funny you said that because the other day I was telling somebody I lived in Florida in 77, and Disney was new, didn't have Epcot, of course, or anything. And hadn't been there 4 or 5 years, maybe. Didn't have the hotels. I mean, a lot of things weren't there yet. But I mean, the park pass was 110 or $120 for a year, an annual pass. So now, like you said, you can't, that's a day without food, I might add. But yeah. 2223. Hot stamper from the second stamper. Yeah, right. Yeah. We all know that joke, right? Hey, that's a really great. I really like this comment a lot. Okay. Yeah. $150 is a tank of gas. You're right. And goes pretty quick, and records last for, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's people that'll pay $150 for a little Hummel thing, a little figurine, and it's like, cool. If that's your deal, love it. Not, I my thing is, if you're not into records, you just like throwing them on and listening to them. Yeah, man, the $30 Steely Dan, just yeah, go for it. I love the fact that people have choices, that they're offering these choices at the extremes, so to speak. That's hey, man, I don't have a problem with that. But you look at it, and we were talking about, people asking questions about, do they think Chad will do X, Y, and Z, like with the Doors, and I'm thinking, this kind of arrangement like Universal did with Steely Dan, with the bottom end records, 33s, and then him doing the high end. That's very similar, like what happened with the Doors with the Rhino, and Rhino's part of Warner Electra Atlantic. They bought that years ago, and so they're doing the same thing essentially. Now they're getting some good engineers doing it too. I mean, like Kevin Gray and that, is doing some of those Rocktobers and some of those releases. So, and here they took the Bernie Master and threw it down onto a high res to put it to vinyl. So, I figure Universal says, shit, MoFi can do it. We can do it too. We're going to tell everybody up front about it, but we can do it too. Can't put a price on things that make you happy. Do not let my wife see this. No, I'm just kidding. she's much more frugal than I am, believe me. I will say the Steely Dan records I saw at my local record shop today conveniently are priced higher. Angel was going for 50. Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Chance, all of the OG vinyl is up. All of the Can't Buy Thrills at a show I was at recently were between $50 and $80. So I mean, you know, they've been a little bit up, but I think everything's up when it comes to OG stuff. Do I think it's worth $150 based on the? Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, think about it for a minute. If I, obviously, if I didn't hear any difference, it would be like, huh? You know, that would be disappointing. So is the difference that I heard worth it? Yeah, because it took something that I already had a very high regard and appreciation for and upped it, up that satisfaction level to where now I have a new driver for listening to it more, or, I'm building new muscle memory and new auditory sensibilities about it. And so, yeah, that's interesting to me. That's, I play in that space for certain things, certain records that I really, really like. That's one thing about me. There's certain things I really, really like, and a lot of things, unfortunately, I guess I really don't really have an interest in. I have a fairly narrow window of what I really like, and I'll admit that. I'm the same way with food. I mean, I guess that's just my personality for whatever reason. But hey, that's why there's all these differences. People can choose what they want, right? Yeah. So I think it was, I don't feel cheated. I don't feel like it was a bad investment. Not that I bought it as an investment. It fulfilled my expectations of hearing even more of the quality of Steely Dan's capabilities. I think that's what, if I was going to write a review, I would say that is what happened. I always had a high degree of respect for this album. I was telling my friend today that I was talking to, who had done a listening comparison yesterday and helped me out on that. I said, I'll never forget when I first heard Do It Again on the radio. I mean, the beginning of that, if you listen to the first minute and a half of instrumentation, and you think about that compared to about anything else you've ever heard in the top 40 space, because that was the space it was in, the AM and beginning to be FM radio. That is a very unique sound, very, I say foreign, not American rock kind of sound. It was like, oh, that's interesting. What are those instruments? What is that? My goodness, what is that? That's the experience. Matter of fact, I should go look. I wonder if there's reaction videos out there to Do It Again, because I know if there were no reaction videos when I was, in 1972 when this came out, but I was just in high school. And I remember buying the single. I grabbed that single the day I heard it. And I'm like, wow, that is just so different. It just is a unique, and that, that's, to me, it has an emotional experience because it takes me back to 1972. And my friend Dr. Lund knows what a nut I was in 1972, if she's out there. And that was really big to me, right? Let's see. Do you think the news that AS is giving? Yeah, I do, Chance. I do think it is a part of the equation. There's a general rise in prices, I think, but I think in this specific case, there are. it's going to be interesting to see what Michael 45 says about this versus the OG. I'm assuming he's getting it. The OGs were always good, but I don't know that they were ever great. The probe is pretty strong. The probe from UK I've got is pretty strong. Actually, the yellow vinyl out of Canada is pretty strong as well. Hey, Nor, how are you doing, Mazzy? Yeah, yeah, and you may not have joined earlier, but I had a little bit of a visceral experience yesterday when I first heard "Do It Again" off of that 33 RPM, because it was just felt really hot, sounded really hot and bright, a bit bright. But I had been sick with upper respiratory, and I think my hearing was oversensitive, because today when I listened to it, it wasn't near as visceral to it. But yeah, it's I mean, they got a Bernie Grundman master. Yeah, okay, that's what they got, and they don't have the exact same lacquer selections Chad made, but Bernie took it probably straight off. I guess probably just took it straight off of what the notes were off of the tape case, which is actually, in the picture I showed earlier that comes with the record. And probably, just mastered it and gave them the file, and that was it. And they ran with it and mass produced it. So, yeah, I mean, it's money well spent. I mean, hell, the OG's going for two, 3 times that. So yeah, I think it's pretty good value in that. I am getting MoFi's Thriller. I am. Yeah. Hey, buddy, take care of yourself quick. Um, yeah, that's good. Mazzy, thanks for joining. Like I said, it's a very interesting listen. You hear a lot of things you never heard before. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, a lot of people are waiting on those, and I don't. Oh, licensing fees. I mean, forget. I mean, this was a mega deal, no doubt. People don't really understand what it takes to make something like this come to the masses. There's not, and I say appreciation for it, but um, it's expensive. I mean, the same guy who's with the Eagles, Irving Asimoff's with the Fagan, and they did the deal with MoFi, and that's big to get multiple, to get a catalog essentially. That's big stuff. Some things will never change. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dr. Lund, you're right. I guess I'm one of them. Internet squatters. First ABC is fantastic. Yeah. And that's with the block. I mean, not the block, but the actual rectangular, like the old logo on television, right, Maz? Yeah. And I even was listening yesterday. I even pulled out my Robert Ludwig from Greatest Hits, because those were remastered. Those are great. Those are great. I know you had boxes of those, you said. The early state, I like Everything Must Go. I like better than Two Against Nature. So I did buy Everything Must Go from Acoustic Sounds. From Analogue Productions. They're 45 RPM. It's great. I have the record store day of both of those when they came out, but I'm more if of the two, I like Everything Must Go. I think it's analog, whereas I think the other one was digital. Yeah. Well, I think, Maz, I think, that whole thing was bundled into a project together. I think there was, you know what I mean? I'm sure it's kind of like, well, you already got Bernie doing it for Chad. So why don't we just, I think Like, hey, that's part of the deal, man. It's, I can just see that being, can see guys puffing on cigars, that's the way it's got to be, But yeah, I mean, I guess it just kind of, it's all, as Tommy James once said in one of his songs, it's all in the mix, man. It was in the mix. Oh, concert buddy, that's a good. Yeah, you're going to buy it from a local. That's a good approach. I applaud you for that. I think mine's been on order from the get, so I'm not going to cancel it because I'm hoping it's an early one. But that's my only reason for retaining that. I guess I could always go to a store, but a lot of people don't carry MoFis here, and they up the price quite a bit. At least Josie does. What is my ritual? Special cocktail. Throw it right on. Yeah, my UHQR ritual actually is to take the box, the lovely Mazzy Northwest Pacific box, and very carefully slit it like I showed you earlier, so that I just peel back the side shrink and pull it out, and then just carefully take out each paper and kind of lay things out a bit and look at it. And I was so taken aback by the jacket on this and the quality and the stiffness and ruggedness and the shiny. I mean, it was just so, whoa. I almost really didn't even see that insert that had the tape pictures in it, because it was I was really just zoomed in on the cover and how great it was. So no special cocktail. As a matter of fact, when I'm handling records, I don't really want to be in that mode. I mean, I'm more likely to drink and listen to an SACD, frankly, because I know I'm not going to mess it up. I always have a fear about, how it is. And I guess maybe if I took my dust cover off once I started playing, I could reduce the risk of hitting the dust cover. But I've done that once in my life. I learned the hard way, that kind of thing. So it was, all in all, the UHQR definitely has enough nuance and difference and improvement to say, you know, it has distinction. And the question again is whether it's worth $150 or the net of 150 minus the 30 or whatever for the 33. That's I don't know how to judge. I think people will be very happy with the 33 generally, because it has a very appealing sound. It's a little bright for me. It's a little, like I said, it's about a dB, half to a 1 dB hotter kind of cut, which made it a little bit more aggressive, and it was sensitive to me. I don't really get listening fatigue that often, but when I do, it's pretty bad, and that one hit me pretty hard. But I think my condition, my medical condition, and from last week influenced that. So. There's a good question for Mazzy. If you're still on, Maz, how did you find the pricing overall? The record show you went to recently. He said he went to his local today and noticed pricing continuing to go up. Too much discogs on these dealers' minds. Yeah, I mean, I noticed it's up too. I was at Josie Records yesterday, which is a big store here in Dallas. They're actually opening another store in McKinney at a real prime location. And it's it'll be a totally new store. And I'm like, wow, it's going to have a lot of inventory to stock that up. So here's Maz. Local used LP store goes by discog prices. Told him he can keep it. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's one person saying, yeah, I mean, I can tell. I mean, I look, obviously I scan barcode or whatever, usually and I'll look, and it's usually whatever somebody's asking. A lot of times it's the lower side of what people are asking, but depends where it's at. Is it got to get shipped? Is it US? Is it Canada? There's all sorts of variables, obviously, but They're looking more at that than they are and what it's been selling for, which obviously people can ask anything they want, but that doesn't mean it's going to sell for that. So you really kind of need to look at the trends and the selling, I think, to see, what's a reasonable price. Yeah, that's a great question, Chance. So yeah, I talked to GI yesterday at NTX because he was at that Carrollton Fair, and he's like, yeah, it's amazing. There's that much demand out there. There is, that much. So I mean, he didn't really give me what I would call, if I was in that kind of business and I had 3 shops and they're not that far away, I kind of my reaction might have been, yeah, that's something, isn't it? But he wasn't. He was just like, hey, the business is booming, things are, so he, you start buying from NTX and seeing what they have and their pricing and weight and um he's going to grow his customer base and have a good solid base of customers, and again, there's going to be people that are going to go into a Josie, and because the name is big and they're just going to buy, and they're just, and that's fine. And they're, but, but I'd say, yeah, NTX, the thing about NTX that's difficult for me is it's in 3 places that aren't really that close to me. So I've got to go out of my way really to get to them. Now I can shop online and I do sometimes, but generally, whereas Josie, it's like on the way to the airport. It's like out toward where my mother-in-law lives. So it's easier for me to just go, to stop by there. So yeah, it's supposed to be in Oxnard, California, which is not far from where RTI actually is right now. Now, I'll tell you, you want to do something if you know how it is, so you're really bored, but go look at where RTI is located in California and then go do a street view of the place. And it's like in an industrial park. There's no, there's nothing fancy schmancy about it or anything like that, but it's just different. And then let me see if I've got a picture I can show you that I took. It was in my video with Kai Siemens from Speaker Corner, because they exclusively use Palace as their pressing plant. And let's see, where's that at? Come on. There we go. See if I can share my screen if I know what the hell I'm doing here. Okay. So this is the plant at Palace in Germany. This is what it looks like. That's like a shipping receiving dock door. Those that have the angled cover there. They got 2 of those across the back there. Look at how clean, neat, and fenced. And on the left, you got the little icon of a record for an image. I mean, it's just really, whereas the ones that are here, I mean, even QRP is, it's a, it's an older building, and it just happens to have a record pressing plant in it. Nothing fancy, but but anyway, the one they're building is supposed to be in Oxnard, so it should be, if they're building something out of scratch or are they going into an existing building, I don't know, but it's not that far from RTI, is what I understand from what I looked at on the map. One step from RTI is correct. Yep. It's a half-speed master. Do you think a lot of listeners? Whoa. That's funny. It's not a half speed master, by the way. Uh, not a heartbeat, not a heartbeat over again. I like that because the recording's getting clearer over time. You imagine you'll still be having these many revelations when listening. Yeah, I think I will. It's a great question, and it really makes sense. The fact that you're how much can you squeeze out of the wash rag, the water level? Once you wring it, how much can you wring out of it, and you draw out of it. Um, I think the answer is yes with the right mastering engineer. Now, as these guys fall off, now we have Ryan K. Smith, a younger guy at Sterling, who's learned under the tutelage of Ted Jensen, George Marino, R.I.P. George, and so those guys are pretty good. And Bernie's bringing some folks up as well. But um, I believe, and this is okay. This is just me. I believe that people that have grown up in an analog world and analog sound and everything, they just have a different idea of the craft, and they have a different idea of the sound and the warmth and the having than people who grew up in the digital age. I just think there's a distinction and a difference, and unless these folks coming into here have evolved an appreciation and listening skill for that type of sound, it's going to decrease. And it could be to where potentially, you got to have the right person or it's going to sound worse, in some ways. And I really thought that this Geffen 33 suffered a bit from maybe that with the person that cut it to lacquer, because I thought maybe it was cut a little bit too hot. And there's still part of me that thinks that or feels that way. I definitely think it sounds a little bright to me. That's still, I can switch AB between that and the UHQR and objectively say, yeah, that's brighter. It's forcibly brighter. Same cartridge, I mean, I'm talking. So I told Chad about this experience yesterday, and I'll probably talk to him maybe tomorrow before I take off or after I get to Florida or whatever, but just to update him on what I've learned about, my hearing and the perception I had. But, he could easily do that AB, in his office. So not he may not care to do it, of course, or whatever, but it would be, I would really love to hear it from an objective person. So yeah, so that was a great point, I think. Phono preamp. I switch between. I have a Manny, Ship Manny too, and then my NAD has a NAD integrated amp has a preamp built in, which is a pretty good one, pretty solid one. It can do moving magnet or moving coil. I use moving magnet, but so I don't have a high end system. Really. I mean, I have. Uh, I say working man's equipment, but I mean, I just don't. Um, I mean, I know I could have a lot more expensive equipment. I choose to buy a $150 record, I guess, instead of that or whatever. But and these things can sound really good on a decent system. I mean, I'm not talking Crosley's here and all the, all in ones or whatever. I'm talking about, separates and a decent quality, type. It can sound pretty good. You can put components together for under a couple of grand, I'd say easily, and have a decent sound. Thanks, Michael, for doing this. 44 is noticeably louder. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say that um, all we were told, all I have read, or all I have heard, and again, if you all have heard, read, or seen anything different, please tell me. But all I have heard is they were transferred to high res digital files. Okay, high res. So, how high is the res? I don't know. I'm assuming it's better. It should be better than 44.1, which is CD. Okay, so to me, a high res should be at least a jump above that, right? 192 or greater. Never. Some guy in a video said these were transferred to DSD. I said I never heard anybody ever say that. Now he may assume because of the MoFi thing, that because that was a transfer to digital that all high res is DSD. Well, we know that's not true. But again, this wasn't this gentleman. He had a few hundred subscribers and he was kind of new, and that's great. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying we don't know what high res it was. If any of you have heard anything that is solid, in other words, send me a link, then I'd love to hear it. But I've not heard. And the couple of questions I asked Chad that got even close to the Geffen 33 yesterday, he's like, I don't know what they did. I just know they used Bernie. I don't, he wasn't, like I said, I think he had his contract with Bernie to do what he needed to do. And, Universal had its contract with Bernie. My guess is Bernie, for mastering for Universal, it was one and done. What's the, I can imagine Universal saying, what's the cheapest I can get away with to just get it transferred from the tapes to a file to put on a record? What's the, what can you do for me, Bernie? Hey, come on. So I mean, I can imagine that. That's, they want to mass produce these and, make their margins and move on to something else. I mean, I get it. It's not a work of passion for them. It's a work of economics for them. Not that it isn't a work of economics for Chad too, but he's got a lot more dogs in the hunt. I mean, and sunk money of a small business for licensing and for the agreement and all that. That's a significant chunk of the business in terms of investing it. Whereas these multi-billion-dollar corporations, these are drops in the bucket relative to them. I'll be interested to see the counts of sales, though. To see I've got someone looking up that for me. Someone has some people with Universal, so. Streaming just got uploaded. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Thanks. Saying uploaded from 24/192. Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair bet. I mean, that's a pretty fair bet, I'd say. Yeah. Thank you. And again, I don't know. I just, again, we're surmising. It's probably a fairly good surmise because like I said, I think Universal took whatever the straightest line to the cheapest way to get it done. Realizing, hey, I don't need all analog. It's all economies of scale to them, right? Devil's advocate, if they were that cheap, why did they? You're right. Because he was there, he was already doing the work. He already had the tapes. And guess what? Nobody trusts Bernie with nobody trusts people with tapes like they do Bernie. There's only a few people that that the labels will hand these tapes to. They're dumb, but they're not stupid. I mean, you're not going to give this to some rookie guy to handle analog tapes. Forget it. They can be one and done with the tape going to hell in a handbasket with that. So I know why they use Bernie. I think they, like I said, they're might be dumb, but they're not stupid. They're definitely not going to make that mistake. Hey, Novus Nick, good to see you, buddy. Sony. What's the Sony question, Novus Nick? This is UMG, this Universal Music Group, with Steely Dan with Geffen. UMGE, I think they're called, technically, for old catalog. Yeah, Darren. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, unfortunately, it was a lot more than that. So hearing him say, "Hey," wasn't even he wasn't even an expectation or anything. It was something to point out. The instrumentation richness is where the palette is getting its satisfaction. It's the vocal side isn't nearly to me as much of the improvement as the instrumentation is. So, yeah, okay, great. Thank Novus. I wasn't sure. Sony, yeah, Sony is basically not doing much unless it was local to them. So Sony's catalog has severe limitations of now they did I mean, you got to remember Columbia is Miles Davis. Did I say Miles Davis? Is that who I meant to say? Kind of blue, yeah. That's who I meant to say. So there are some exceptions which are being done with Sterling and Ryan K. Smith, and so there have been some, but a lot of things are plated, and that's how things are being done. So it's all reducing. I mean, if you watch my video with Kai Seaman from Speaker's Corner, you'll get it. You'll get the real deal inside of how it really is going down. So that's all I can say. It's a sad tale, actually. It's a that video for me in that interview was it was very, in a way, a little bit gut wrenching, because you kind of can see the demise of the direction of the industry and where things are going in this arena pretty clearly. And you got Chad, propping up and doing what he can do given what his influences are and what his contacts are with certain quality engineers that the labels have a little more confidence in. But it's it's waning. It's waning. That's clearly the case, and that is why I think you have something like Buying Classic or whatever, places where you already have stuff plated, where the demand is going to be there. Then you could, through licensing, then you could do it and maybe not have to remaster it and have to go through any of that problem. It's really it's a good lesson. I mean, the industry is turning topsy turvy a bit, and again, the discussion with Kai from Speaker's Corner really gave me a kind of a gut wrenching perspective. I guess it's kind of like it, but this guy, small company, own his own company, and what he has gone through, and what you know if he would have known then what he knows now, what was going to be taken away and how it wouldn't have access to it. Because we talked about Can't Buy a Thrill very specifically, because they did it in 2004. And, he was like, I thought we could just go back and do more when we needed to. And then just all of a sudden things started to change. And now trying to even get new releases. I mean, he doesn't have one title new contracted for 2023 yet. It's November the 6th of 2022, and he doesn't have a title one for 2023 yet. And it's like he said, and we go through the motions to try to get it, and then it's like, no, we don't know why, don't know, just no. He says it's almost better that they all would just say, hey, we're not going to do it. Don't even ask anymore. We're done. And just go ahead and, press what they have that they have available that they can, and run the business through that, methodology. Quit trying to get new titles because it's a exercise in futility. So it's hate to see that. Oh, great. Nova Snick. Okay, so you've got a channel. And is it called Nova Snick? Just tell me, or put a link to it here. Put a link in the comment to your channel, and I'll be a really bad version of Rachel and promote you. But yeah, and if I can help you in any way, on whatever production, putting a video together, whatever, let me know. I've only been doing this since March, so I try to add some production value. Oh boy, I love that. One went to Fremer. Somebody earlier said it went to Chad. So see, I'm gonna be the better host here, I guess. So here's what I'm gonna say. I'll put in. So I'll have it on record here. I say number one went to Donald Fagen. Okay, I'll be, which would be fair, appropriate, whatever. It'd be fine. It would take all the drama out of all the other scenarios. Yeah, I'm thinking that Fremer's getting all the number ones out of the Eagle releases from MoFi, actually. But oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, gee. You own restaurants. Man, restaurants a tough gig. Tough. My parents owned a restaurant. It was actually before I came onto the scene, but yeah, people don't realize what a bear it is to run a restaurant. So Novus Nick, that's his site, and on YouTube, so you can look him up, and he's Nova Snick Nova. Is that you with the big N? Nova Snick Nova? Let's see. No, I don't think that's you. It says Chico Ingenuendo. No, I don't think that's you. Is it? No, I don't think so. So I gotta find you. Which two Steely fans are your must-haves? Two. Can't Buy a Thrill and Gaucho. I would have said Asia a year ago, but I've really grown to like Gaucho more. I think Asia was just overplayed. You know what I mean? So you beg my forget. Yeah. I know about restaurant. Yeah, for sure. Oh, you got him, Novus Nick. Maybe I'm. Oh, I know what I did. Typo will do it every time. There he is. Oh yeah, he's got an unboxing there. Okay. Box of the Doors and more. Okay. Cool. Very good. Glad to see that. That's good to see. So let's let everybody know that you've got a channel out there. I think that's really important. I think there's a link to it, folks. That'll get you there. And when you get there, it's going to look something like this. Now that's Nova's Nick's site right there. Okay. There you go. So there you go. Thanks for letting us know. I appreciate that. I'll take a look at it. Oh yeah, it's always a humble start. Don't don't worry about it. I mean, it's just and I just subbed you up myself, but turn notifications on. Let's get him some subscriptions here, guys. Yeah, there's always a lot to learn, even when you think you know what you're doing, there's more to learn. Um, the software is amazing what it can do these days. I mean, one day I think we ought to share. It would be nice to get some of the channels to share what software they use, right? Just we'll make a list. What are the apps that people are using to build their stuff? I mean, I know there's the whole, iMac, iMovie kind of crowd, but then there's us folks that use Windows, and there's a lot of different ones there that we use. But it's cool. It's very nice to get started. What upcoming releases am I looking? Well, one just came out by a group called the Blue Stones. So, okay, I haven't talked about this at all. I'm going to start up another browser here because I want to show you something. So, and the reason I bring it up is the Blue Stones is a band, and I found out about the Blue Stones because they sound a lot like a band that I love that broke up called Mute Math. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Mute Math, but here's their page. But they've broken up. I can't remember, 2017, I think 18. But very great guys. I've seen them at least a dozen times. And Paul Meany, he's worked with 21 Pilots on the last two albums, production, and this new group, not new group, but Blue Stones. He's kind of influenced their music. They remind me of Mute Math. Mute Math, you've got to look at their videos. I have a bunch of them on my playlist under my concerts. But they do some amazing, amazing music. Their drummer, Darren King, is one of the most talented drummers I've ever seen in my life. And just crazy. And they've had a few hits. Typical was a big one. It was a big video that they did. But so the original question was what? So that just came out, Blue Stones. Can't remember the name of the album off the top of my head, but they're just really, really good. I've been kind of waiting for their next release. I can't say there's anything really. I mean, the only RSD thing that I have any interest in is the alternate takes of Fleetwood Mac. That one may be one I want to get. I have one of those. I think it's Rumors, but that's one that I may want to get. But if there are any fans of Gil Scott Heron out there, AAA 2LP 45 pressing of Pieces of a Man that just came out. Pretty sweet if you can find it. Okay, thanks. I've heard that artist. I don't know him, but I have heard that artist's name. So there's a great insight there. If there's any fans out there. Yeah, I just really, I don't follow a lot of new bands. Bad Sons is another band that I like. That's a newer indie band. Switchfoot, I've been into Switchfoot for years. Those guys played here in town a lot at a club my daughter was a manager at, so I got to know them. The Afters is another band that I like. They were here in the Dallas Rowlett area. They formed here, met at a Starbucks here on off I-30 near where I live. And the Afters, they're a really, they're kind of a Christian, but they're more mainstream, but really talented guys. So I'm, you know, I'm just not into a lot of the newer stuff. Take care, Dr. Lund. Have a great tea and a great sleep. And I'll be in Orlando next time I talk to you. So take care. Thanks for joining. Good friend from high school days. Great friend from high school days. So there, I'm caught up on comments, which is good for a change. I know Patrick is doing a show, you know, of a live vinyl thing. I don't join those a lot. It's just I just can't sit through something like that. It's not that easy for me just to sit and listen like that. But I did Toby Mac and Cheese. Okay, here's Toby Mac. So yeah, Toby Mac, he's out of Dallas area too, actually, and and you know, he was in DC Talk, and I met him at one of the when they were a warm up for Michael W. Smith. I met them, and they were nobody, you know, that long time ago. But oh, okay. Now that rings a bell. The revolution will not be tolerated. Okay, that does ring a bell. Thanks. Yeah, alternate cuts of rumors. New. Well, they released one. They've released several of the alternate takes series. Rumors was one, and now they're coming out with a box set of multiple ones from their albums, which include the Fleetwood Mac, the the album before Rumors, and then Rumors, and then I think Mirage. So yeah, those are coming, I think, on RSD. So, got to go back, Jack, and do it again. Yeah, kind of what my thumbnail said. David, you got to do this again now, talking about this album. The revolution will not be televised. Yeah. People in Russia are finding that out. Did I say that out loud? Okay. All right. All right. Mic upgrade. And I will tell you that the mic upgrade is number 2 behind decent lighting. To be honest with you, I mean, the sound of my channel changed the most when I got this Shure mic. I mean, MV7, best $250 I ever spent. So there you go. I bought a mic's $250. Okay, Steely Dan was 150. So it's like, okay. So I mean, this mic I can use over and over again. It's great, but I'm just saying, quality costs. That's all I'm trying to say. You could buy cheap mics and go to Walmart and whatever, and you're going to get, you're not going to get high quality. This mic is, this is Shure. I mean, that's what they do for a living. I mean, that's, unfortunately, they don't make cartridges anymore. Damn. No, it's an MK7. MK7. And it allows, it's like the other with the XLR connection, but this one has the USB as well. So what lighting? Like a light, like I have I have a very, turn it off, inexpensive portable light, and it's it's charged by USB, and it can have different patterns, different brightnesses. You can raise it, you can change the pattern on it, which is hard to see obviously on there, but and it's used, like you can see I have these darker shadows here, right? Because the light now is up, from the ceiling coming down. So what this attempts to do, and I don't have honestly a great setup here, but, and I turned it down so much it's not making any difference. So this gives you a more, now the bad part is with the glasses, See that, you get that glare coming back at you, which you totally lose, and I don't need glasses for distance. I just need it for reading. So, but anyway, they make round ones, which are probably a little more popular. You can get them really big, really small, but you need something, Let me see what's going on here. Just gave you a shout out on my channel. Okay, great. Great, Sound Labs. That's good. Concert Buddy has that contest going. That's what he needs. Thanks. Yeah, the mic. Again, I got it at the far setting. This even has software that you can set this with. So, it's pretty, it has a lot of features. And you did a new Steely Dan review. So what'd you think, Sound Lab? And there goes the light. See, that's what I mean. I usually have it all set up. I just kind of rickety put it up there. But so Sound Lab, put a link to your review in here. Let's let everybody see it, get a chance to look at it. No, Novus, don't worry about that, man. I love sidetracking. It's okay. Yeah, no, you're good. I'm really glad to show people stuff and to just, chat about it. It's cool. It's not a problem. Yeah. Great. Yeah, let's give Chance some extra people coming into that contest. I know it. I mean, I didn't get a lot of entries in mine, frankly, and then they started that handle thing, so I shortened my timeline because I didn't want to. If I was going to make a change that the handle affected, which it did, I wanted to grab it while I could. So so that's good. Cool Toto 4 record, yeah. Now I had somebody who wrote a comment on my Speaker's Corner interview who has the MoFi Anadisc of that, the Anadisc 200s, which is what they came out with in the late 90s, I think, and asked if I had that to compare to this, and I don't, unfortunately, but this one's really good. I also have a 4-channel of that, so sorry, a 5.1 disc of it, and some people say multi-channel is gimmicky, and it, and whatever, and it can't. I mean, it depends how it's done, but really, at its core, when you think about it, a multi-channel, if we're listening to stereo, it is a multi-channel mixed down to 2 channels. So 4-channel or 5.1 or whatever is giving you more segregation or giving you more distinctive access to some of the instruments or voices or backing voices than you would have in the stereo because they're kind of blended together. So it does give you, again, more insight to the structure of the song, to the point where sometimes it really sounds, I don't say radically different, but it really makes your muscle memory of how you heard it changes. Then it's like, oh gee, well, that guitar I was always suppressed, now it's really triggered. And what's weird about that is when you get that going and then you go back to the stereo and you don't hear it, you go, where's the guitar? So that's one of the problems with going back and forth between multi-channel and stereo. But excuse me. Yeah, that's an interesting I don't know. Well, there used to always be what they called the sophomore jinx. The second album would be crap, and it was like Boston when Don't Look Back came out. It was like it was so highly anticipated, and it sounded so much like the first Boston album. Everybody was disappointed, and it was really kind of odd because there were so many times when a second album came out, it had what's called the sophomore jinx because it didn't remind people of the first album. So it's like, you damned if you do and you damned if you don't, so, but yeah, I don't know. I guess fourth is we made it to the fourth record, I guess. But yeah, four does get a little bit of well, nobody did it like Chicago, Chicago 2, Chicago 3, Chicago 4, Chicago 5, Chicago 6. Okay. They were, they didn't have to spend any money on thinking of album titles. I'll tell you that. Oof. Beatles' fourth album is Beatles for Sale, which is regarded as their worst. Well, it was the fourth in the UK, that's for sure. Didn't really have Beatles for Sale in the US. I mean, I remember when I followed the Beatles as a kid, but when you grew up in the US, everything it was all the Capitol. It was all, what was coming out through them, early Beatles, Yesterday and Today, Beatles 65. It was all the stuff that, it was nothing like what the UK was, but we really didn't have as much visibility to that back in the day. It wasn't until the 70s when the imports started to come across through Gem Records, which was out of New Jersey, and they were bringing in imports from UK especially, some Japanese and German as well, but a lot of UK, which is nice because I got a lot of Zeppelin OGs that are from UK. And so, but it wasn't until that you started to go, wait a minute, what is this? Beatles for Sale? I never heard of Beatles for Sale. So we had really different experiences. And now, these are talked about like, oh, it's a Beatles catalog. And, and it's like two different worlds, literally, from what it was at the time. It sounds great. I have a quad copy and it sounds great also. Yeah, I have an SQ Columbia. The Impex is, I think, even better than the Speaker's Corner. There's an Impex version of that. LZOG, yeah. Yeah, I've got a physical graffiti that's in there still in the shrink and everything, and it price on it is $9.98. So that's when you really go crazy, right? Right. All right, concert buddy. Thanks for joining in. Great to have you. Take care of yourself. Have a great week. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. I'm really glad you brought that up because I do have the Command Quadraphonic ABC QS encoded version of, I think, 3 Steely Dan albums, 3 or 4, the first 3 or 4, and I recall that now. I just hadn't really thought about it in a long time. The stereo mix runs a quarter step too fast. Because you talk about muscle memories, I used to listen to the quad all the time, and then when I didn't have my quad system set up and everything, I went back to listen to stereo, and I remember I was always like shaking my head a little bit at that, and that was in fact the reason for it. So I really appreciate you bringing that up because I had forgotten about that. So yeah. Yeah, the quad mixes are nice. Yeah, I've got a lot of CD4, the Warner Electro-Atlantic RCA, which was discrete stereo, but you really had to have your modulator had to be really on, and you had to have that special Shibata needle cartridge stylus, and your cartridge had to get that 30,000 carrier signal to decode the channels to separate them. A very complicated, highly engineered solution. Those were half speed mastered, and they had to be half speed mastered to cut that frequency for that decoder, demodulator actually is the right word, demodulator code that was playing. So, and that was what would turn that light on your demodulator right before the first beat of the track. Of course, if you played the record really slowly, and had it in neutral in this, you could hear that high pitch right at the very beginning, just before that track would start. You could hear it. But and that was really the best quad vinyl. Now, I mean, tape, eight, 4-track, reel to reel was really the best. I mean, obviously, that really sounded great. So. Hope you find your dad. Okay, there's going to be something going on there. I hope he finds his dad. Okay. I tell my kids that every night. No, I'm just kidding. I have the shaft in quad too. Yeah, I do have that one. Now, there is one that I'm looking for, by the way, if you ever see it out there, and it is called Creedence Clearwater Gold, and it has that like their silhouette image like multiple times, and it's a stereo, but there is a quad version that looks exactly the same, but it's the matrix begins the record ID begins with a Q, and I can never find that thing. That's one I'd love to have. But yeah, I picked up the shaft. That was probably 10 years ago or so. I found it. Can you dig it? Or as you say on this microphone, can you dig it? Down in the bowels with that one, right? Well, I'll tell you what, folks. It's coming to be 11 o'clock here Central. I've got a plane to catch in the morning for Orlando, Florida. I got to get packed, as they say. But anyway, just for those of you who might not have been here originally, just the UHQR of Steely Dan Can't Buy a Thrill sounds great, very nuanced listening, a lot of new discoveries in the instrumentation, especially. So, for me, I'm satisfied with it in spite of the price of it. As it related to the 33 that I talked about last night, I think part of my issue was my head congestion I had all week, and I don't think I'm fully drained. And I think that impacted me when it first hit me yesterday. It didn't sound quite as hot or quite as abrasive on Do It Again as it did yesterday. But it does still have a brighter sound to it than the UHQR. I mean, bright doesn't bother me. I mean, I kind of like bright a little bit, but it's just noticeably brighter. Just for me, at least in my ears. But it's a good value for $30. I mean, if you're somebody who says I'm not spending $150 for a record, it's cheap. $30 is way cheaper than most of the OGs out there, those of Can't Buy a Thrill. So it's a decent value, I'd say. Do you mean a retraction from my commentary I put down in there, or what do you mean, Novus? Just so I know. I did not order the Stones from the UK. Here's another weird thing. I'm not always big on mono. A lot of people are really big on mono. Oh. Yeah, the SACD is $35. That's right. I may buy that. I didn't, but I may. Yeah, I added to that. I added to that comment. I don't know if you saw it when I first put it up, but I added to it maybe 10 minutes after I put it up. I added to it to clarify that. So what it is it's a clarification, I would call it. I'm trying to clarify that I think I know the root cause of why I had that reaction. So I don't, how do I put it? It was real, and and it still exists, but in much less of a degree than it was. I measured it today. It was about a half to 1 dB hotter or louder, or for the same exact volume level of my OGs. So I think that perception was right. The surface noise is still there. I'm going to do an alignment just to make sure, but compared to the UHQR, there's more surface noise. There's pops and ticks that are annoying enough to where I may even take it back to try to get a different copy. But it is a bit brighter, but it was more enjoyable today. It wasn't as visceral. So I think, Nick, you're really asking, am I going to get rid of it and send it to you? I'm sure that really is the nature of your question, and I understand that. And, I may just throw a copy your way for the heck of it, just because I'm that kind of person. But yeah, the review last night was it was very raw of what I've heard. And I stand by the fact that when I released that is in fact how it had impacted me. And that is one of the reasons I did this video tonight, was to part two, kind of to do it again, so to speak, to clarify that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, you missed it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, again, I believe in full transparency, and if I make a mistake, I'll say I made a mistake. If I make an error, I'll say I made an error. But if it, I think my point is it was genuine. I still believe factually that it is a bit brighter. It is a tad hotter, not as hot as I think I perceived it to be, because of my hearing was affected by this congestion thing, which is better today. So so I'm kind of updating it and saying, hey, I don't feel as bad about it as I did at first, because I think it's I can see why more and more people, what they say, it makes sense to me now. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Hey, I'm, you know this. I'm just trying to be as straight out as I can, and that's it. I we all have hearing, and we all perceive things differently. And I think the thing I wanted to point out to everybody is and even some people said your mood can affect, and I think you're right. I mean, but your medical condition, and I have allergies and things like that. And for me to say that, yesterday, I think I said to you guys, I've never had, it's one of the most profound, visceral things I had happen. Now, really, it was on Do It Again. It wasn't nearly as bad than with Dirty Work and all the other songs. Reeling in the Years. It was Do It Again. It really hit me. And it's probably the song of theirs that I've listened to the most in my life, frankly. So there's a lot of muscle memory and probably a lot of things going on there too. But I mean, it was genuine. But again, I also wouldn't leave that hanging out there. I'm actually going to add a comment in the description of that video. I've even thought about taking it down, frankly, just because of what I've discovered, but at least put a note in there to say, after I did this, here was my experience. So, because I don't want to diss something that, had a negative influence from me that I really wasn't aware of or thinking about. But now that I am, I want to clear the air about it. Yeah. Yeah. Weather. Yeah. Well, see, weather affects like my allergies. Like that's a great example. So, yeah, I guess we are all one universe. We are all one body. We're enmeshed with Mother Nature, and our ears are part of our chemistry of auditory delight. I guess that's what it is. But it is true. It's true. And I was really sick last week. I mean, it was really, my head was, I was blowing my nose, coughing up just 4 days straight. I mean, and that's not an exaggeration. So, I mean, it was bad. So bad on me for not really taking that into account right out of the jump, and saying that. But I was so excited about getting this, and the day it came and everything, and it was like, well, it is what it is. It was very real, but I guess I'll just say warning, always remember your physical health can affect that. And I didn't really factor it. I should have. Um, and it just, to me, it puts into perspective, how bad I was feeling compared to how bad the impact was, and what was going on between my ears, in my head. So sometimes it's not a good time to audition. I mean, even like doing shootouts or whatever, you got to think and go, I don't know, is it, whatever you reason. It's kind of like a factory I worked in. We have really big above ground mining machines, and guys that would work in the startup of the machine or work in the test area where they tested the machine. It was very loud. They had to wear hearing protection and all that. But on the days they took their hearing tests, which was annually, because they had sustained exposure to volumes over 95 dB, the OSHA requirement and all that. And so they had to get hearing tested to see if the work was affecting their hearing over years. And so the guys who were testers and runners of the machines, they couldn't run a machine that day until they got their hearing tested. They had to come first. So we had to get there pretty super early, like 5 a.m. to get them done, because they needed to start testing and working. So because your hearing is affected, by these noises, and then, your hearing has to, adjust and calibrate back. So being near loud sounds like gunshots or anything, concerts, you go to concerts, right? I mean, that's, 100 dB plus, big stuff, so what? Yeah, like it affects my hearing. I can't believe it. What are you saying? Yeah. But so I guess I'm very cognizant of that, but it just was a blind spot for me. I just didn't think about it. And there it was, it bit me. But the good news is, I guess in a way, it's kind of like, okay, I recognized it within 24 hours. Thank God I had someone who was a really good audiophile, I think, that I trust, who talked to me about it this morning and kind of talked me off the ledge and said, maybe you want to listen to that again. And then I was kind of like, I said I had been sick. He said, "You've been sick?" I said, "Yeah." And then we started talking. I said, "Oh, shoot." I said, "I'll bet you that didn't help." He said, "Well, I know it didn't help." He said, "The question is, how much did it hurt?" So I am getting Asia and Gaucho. Those are the two that the two that I am currently have a pre-order in for. I may get Pretzel Logic. Those are right now, but Gaucho's really the one if I was going to say which one I wish they drop next, it'd be Gaucho, but it's going to be the last one they drop, I guess. So. Yeah, you got it, buddy. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Your safety glasses and yeah. Oh, that's I'm in safety. And that's like people, people do, they do dumb stuff. Sometimes they don't think, and they get to rushing, and then they get complacent about it. And that's my whole human behavior work that I do. It's what I'm giving a talk on here in Orlando on Tuesdays, human factors, human behavior in safety. And it's going to be about design of product and assembly of product, and designing it for manufacturability, for serviceability, and how human factors have to be considered in that. But anyway, those elements people will do and take shortcuts. I always say people think about the word short, but they never think about the word cut. And so they try something, I mean, There's a video of a gal at one of our workplaces, and there's an aisleway. It's a L-shaped aisleway, and all you do is you follow the aisleway and you walk down the aisle, and then you turn 90 degrees and go down the next aisleway. Well, there was an angle cut through that the person could take to save maybe 2 steps, maybe 3 steps. And they chose to take that opening, and in that opening there was a pallet sticking out of a corner, and of course the person tripped and fell and got hurt because they made that choice. The aisle walking ways are supposed to be clear, for walking. So I mean, people, we do things and we don't really think about it. So what do we got? I'm going to stream these 3. Pass on the box. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope the somebody sent a note in a chat to me, and I made a comment in the video with Chad that once they reached their limited edition quantity for a title, then that would make it eligible to do a non-QHQR 2x45. And the comment that was made was that they thought they had heard Chad say they were only going to do that for a couple of the titles or a few of the titles. In other words, it wasn't going to necessarily be across the board. Like, let's say Katie Lied hit the 20,000 and they decided, well, we weren't going to do a 2x45 of Katie Lied. We didn't expect it to sell that well. We're not planning. We're doing Can't Buy a Thrill and Asia and Gaucho or whatever. We've picked a few titles we'll do that with. So I've got to ask Chad that, because I don't recall hearing that, but there have been things that have changed. And I'm not one to say that I'm in the loop on everything. That's for darn sure. Now, can I find things out? Yeah, I think I can find things out pretty much. If it's not something Chad can't say, I'll find out. And so I'm going to ask him that question, because somebody pointed it out and thought it was said, and I just missed it. So. Yeah, Katie Lied is worthy. Okay. Well, I just picked that one out of the air. I'm not, judging any of them. I mean, my understanding was when title X hit the number, it would then be put on the list to be released on 2x45. Not necessarily guaranteeing that would happen immediately, but that would make it eligible, and they would be doing that. So that's my understanding of it. So, okay, what is that? I don't like these. Okay. Block user. Okay. That one's gone. I'm learning. See, what is this wrench crap? Yeah, I got to find out about the wrench. Maybe the wrench isn't available in the free version. I have no idea. Here's Rim Shot. Let's see what he's got to say. Sheet Metal Factory. Check our hearing. Yep. Yeah, the truck comes in and checks you. They got these little booths in the trucks, and you're clicking on a thing every time you hear a tone in one ear or the other at different frequency levels. And then that truck can't be around something that's loud either. So, we test units outside. It was not easy to do. I'd have to get 400 or 500 people done in, a couple of days. So the truck was 8 booths per truck, I think. So, yeah. So not as much fun as vinyl, that's for sure. Yeah. All right, gang. Well, here we are at the 2-hour mark, and I really appreciate you all. And again, mea culpa, I guess I'll say, on maybe being quite as aggressive yesterday about my disdain or issues with that 33. But like I said, I know why I had that, but I'd say it's I'd say it's a good value. It's certainly it's going to give you a new auditory experience of that album, and give you a fresher take on it. It's going to be definitely a little brighter, a little, the percussions are going to be, a little sharper, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just pointing out a difference. And I really like the fact that it's a reachable for people to buy. I mean, that's important, you know. But it is what it is, and a lot of our records we don't even know how they're made from that perspective. So we know more than we did. And remember, Bernie mastered it. I mean, he did master it. He didn't cut the lacquer, but he did master it. So his footprint is in it, and you can hear the great work. So it's worth checking out. But if you love that album and you have the money and you say, is it worth it to get it? I mean, the UHQR is going to be my go-to to listen to, no doubt. And all the nuances are worth it. So do I have any idea he will press? I'm not sure which one you're asking about, but I mean, each title's 20,000 max. That's the limited edition, except Asia is 30. So they're all 20,000. All the other titles of Steely Dan are 20,000 and 30,000 for Asia. And then for the ones, how many is going to press beyond that, the 2x45, the non-UHQR, that's just going to be probably supply and demand, however long his contract is to be able to reproduce them. I'm sure he's trying to recoup as much of his investment of the contract. That's a lot of sunk cost up front to get that agreement and all that. So now how many they have actually the 33s, no idea. I think they'll press those on demand as demand. I don't think they're going to have a limit on those. I think it's going to be they're going to press those based on demand. And then again, however long that contract is, 5 years or whatever it is. So that's what I expect it to be. So for those of you who really, want to get the 2x45, that's the non-UHQR, I would say, encourage people to buy the UHQRs because they're your road to getting the non-UHQRs. So anybody out there that wants to buy one of those and says, well, you're a damn fool if you buy the $150 one, you should be thinking, thank you. I think maybe I should change my strategy here. I think you should be saying, hey, I hope a lot of people buy those and I hope they buy them fast, because that's the ticket to get the $60, $70, $80, whatever they're going to be when the day comes, those presses, So, it's an interesting market dynamic. A few people I know who are wanting that, and I'm like, they're kind of saying, I wouldn't pay that. You got to be a damn fool. And I'm thinking, well, you better hope there's a lot of damn fools out there, because if they don't buy them, you're not going to get yours. And that's just the way it's set up. Like it or lump it, that's just the way it is. So, all right, gang, have a great week. Be safe. Take care of yourselves and your family. We'll talk to you soon. I'm heading off for a new excursion to Orlando tomorrow. So take care, everybody. See ya. Bye-bye.